Hello everyone, Rise of the Phoenix here, and welcome to my intermediate money-making guide for Europa Universalis 4. It's going to be mostly a intermediate trade overview. So going into this video, I'm hoping that anybody watching has an understanding of the basic premise of trade in terms of like the pizza or pie analogy, where you want to create the biggest pizza and get the most or like the largest slice of that pizza, because that's how you're gonna make money from trade. If you're not sure what I'm talking about there, you could watch my first video or go do some research. The super brief explanation of it is every trade node has a value, which is kind of how big the pizza is, and then every node has trade power, and your portion of trade power is how much of that pizza you get. So, want to make a big pizza and want to have the largest slice of that pizza. So, how do we do that? Well, the first thing that you're going to need to do if you want to make tons of money from trade is pick a good trade node that you're going to want to boost up in terms of funneling money into, and also building manufactories and production buildings to increase the local trade value. In this playthrough, I started as Denmark. We went for the Iron Price achievement, which we did complete. Could have completed it earlier, but I also wanted to make a colonial empire and make a bunch of money this game. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 colonies over here currently. Plenty more we could pick up, especially in South America. And we did get one trade company online over here, with future plans for some trade companies over here if I continue the playthrough. But we're pretty huge in this game, and Imperator Rome is about to come out, so I don't know if I'm going to continue the playthrough or not. If anybody's interested in the playthrough, I am going to finish uploading the last videos as soon as I get it all cut up and edited and whatnot. So anyway, in this playthrough, since I was going to be conquering England anyway, and Denmark is in, pretty close proximity to the English Channel, I chose to go for the English Channel. It's also probably the best trade node in the game. It's certainly absolutely one of the best. So as soon as I conquered enough of these English Channel trade node provinces, I went ahead and set my trading capital to the English Channel. As Denmark, it does start over in Lubeck. To do that, you just go over here, you just click on whatever province, and you say, hey, I want to make this my main trade city. For example, if we wanted to move it back over here, we could click that. It does cost Diplo points, and you do have to be at peace if I remember correctly. So, probably the most important step of making tons of money off of trade is picking the proper home trade node. English Channel, always a great choice if you're in the area. Genoa, another great choice if you're in the area. Constantinople can be good. Persia can be good. Zanzibar can be good. Some places in India can be good. So just whatever area of the world you're in, the main thing you want to look for is it an end node? Because end nodes are always the best. What I mean by end node is there's no trade that ever flows out of the English Channel. The English Channel can never lose value to trade flowing out of it like the North Sea can, like Lubeck can. Almost every trade node in the game is not an end node. So if you're able to, definitely go for an end node. If not, you want to look for something like over here in Zanzibar. There's only one spot that trade flows out of Zanzibar, which means there's going to be a lot less competition over the directions that trade is flowing, which is different from, say, Alexandria, where you have 3 different places that trade flows out of, or Aleppo that has 2. I think the Caribbean has a bunch. It has 3. The Ivory Coast has like 4 or 5. Looks like 4. So I would tend to avoid nodes that have lots of ability for trade to flow out of it, because that means other countries are going to want to come in and steer trade towards them. All right, so you've picked your home node, and then what you need to do is you need, if it's not already the home node that you start in, you need to conquer it up. And when you're doing that, you want to do it efficiently. And what I mean by that is you want to take provinces that are naturally high trade value provinces. So Middlesex, which was London, has this estuary which gives it 10 local trade power. It also has a natural harbor, which is a coastal center of trade that can be upgraded. And with my current money, although we probably have plenty of control over the English Channel, you know, it could be worth upgrading this to level 2, level 3. Places like Genoa, level 2, you can easily get that to level 3. So you want to make sure that when you're fighting wars for your trade node, especially when you're moving into another trade node that's not your home node, you want to make sure that you first conquer provinces that give a lot of trade value. So as you see here, Middlesex gives 69 points of trade power to the English Channel. Now, I don't want you to be confused. That's not going to add value to the trade node. It's just going to increase your portion of the pie. If we compare that to Essex, for example, it only has 8.3. Now, part of it could be that, you know, we have development here, we have the marketplace here, etc., etc. And so, you know, we have some other modifiers. It's not just that Middlesex is way, way more overpowered than Essex. A more fair comparison might be Gloucester, that has 33.4 trade power. So it's very important that you want to take these provinces that have lots of natural trade power, because that's going to increase your portion of the pie rapidly, and that's very important. The other thing is, when you're conquering a node from, say, England like we did, not only does it increase your piece of the pie, it vastly decreases England's piece of the pie. Which kind of has like a double dip sort of effect. You're increasing your value, decreasing their value, so you're going to make a lot of money a lot more rapidly. Other things to consider are, you know, who else is going to be fighting you for the trade in that node. And you can see that if you click on the trade node, you can see everybody who's participating in the trade and what they're doing. So the Netherlands is collecting. Obviously, in a node like the English Channel, nobody's going to be steering because there's nowhere to steer. Netherlands collecting Oldenburg. Castile actually has a merchant collecting here. They're taking 3.71 ducats. I imagine that their only trade power is coming from... oh, wait, yeah, Castile actually has provinces in the English Channel. I was thinking that their only trade power would be coming from light ships, but they actually have some provinces because they got the Burgundian inheritance in this particular playthrough. So one move that I might want to do, given how much value that we're losing to the Netherlands, and I did take a couple of their provinces in a previous war, I'm really going to want to conquer some of their stuff that's in the English Channel, because they are currently my biggest competition here. I'm also going to want to take some stuff from Castile, particularly because Castile has 2 centers of trade that we could pick up and have a nice chunk of value from that. So you want to make sure that you're conquering valuable provinces, and you want to make sure that you're cutting out your competition. Just like in any real life business, the less competition you have, the more money you're going to make, because killing your competition is going to increase your piece of the pie. So I think we've done a nice overview of how to get the biggest slice of the pie. Other factors are protecting your trade with light ships. Now, I would advise that you primarily do that in nodes that you don't have a lot of natural trade power in. Right now, I don't think I have any light ships protecting in the English Channel, because I just have 79% of the trade power there already, and that's 977 trade power. just off of provinces. If we were to send light ships, maybe this would be a better example. Each frigate is only going to add 3.5 points of trade power. Even if we sent 100 light ships here, that's only 350 additional trade power that we're going to gain. That's only like a 30% increase in our current trade power, which I think would end up pushing us to like 87% or something like that of the English Channel. We'd have to send them there because there's going to be other modifiers involved and whatnot. The point being, if we are going to send our light ships, like I have in this game, to a node like the Ivory Coast, where we have, I think, no provincial, okay, we get 1.4 trade power provincially. Woohoo, right? But our light ships are giving us 462 trade power. Now, when you go from 1.4 provincial trade power to 462 light ship trade power, obviously that's a much larger percentage increase than going from almost 1,000 provincial trade power to, let's just say, these same light ships around the English Channel, adding 462. So essentially, just from light ships protecting in this highly contested node, you can see all the countries in here that are interacting with this trade node. There's a ton of them. And yet, just from light ships, we have the largest piece of this pie that we are now pushing into the English Channel. So if you have a low provincial control over your own home trade node, it can be valuable to send your light ships there. But really, when you're micromanaging your light ships, you want to send them to contested nodes so that you can grab bigger pieces of those other pies that are ultimately going to flow into your home node. Because you're always going to be collecting in your home node, because that's just the way the game works. So, the other thing you can do that in this node we probably wouldn't want to do anything, because it doesn't look like pirates control much of this node. The other thing you can do, though, I'm going to try to find a node that's being pirated. Maybe none of these are. If you have a node that's being highly pirated, then you would want to actually have some of your fleet hunting pirates, so that it takes, well, here we go. Pirates have 1% control over this node, so we're not going to want to hunt pirates there. But if you do see that somebody is pirating one of your nodes heavily, you can send some of your other fleets to hunt pirates and decrease that, the percentage that pirates are getting. So, brief recap of what we talked about so far. Number 1, pick a good home trade node. Number 2, conquer the valuable provinces and get the largest slice of that pie. And then what you want to do is you really want to pump up how valuable that trade node is. One of the best ways of doing that is using your merchants. So in this game, we did end up taking trade ideas because it gives us 3 merchants. It gives us 10% trade efficiency. We can pop, which policy is it? This policy here. Trade plus quality gives us 20% trade efficiency, and trade efficiency is very important for making money off of trade. So I think there's even another policy that if we wanted to fill our last military slot, we could even take another 10% trade efficiency from our offensive and trade ideas being finished. So in this particular game, trade gave us a base 10%, 20% from a policy that's 30%. We could even buff it up to 40% trade efficiency just from trade ideas. But it also gives us 3 merchants, 1, 2, and then 3 from that. It gives us some trade steering. Very, very good idea group for if you're trying to make a lot of income from trade. So what do we do with our merchants? Well, we want to kind of domino effect them into our home node. And what I mean by that is we want to look, okay, we have the English Channel. What all flows into the English Channel, and what all that flows into the English Channel do we have good control over? Well, obviously the North Sea. So what goes backwards from the North Sea? So we put one merchant here. He's pushing into the English Channel. We're going to follow this arrow over to the New World. We can put a merchant in the Gulf of St. Lawrence to push into the North Sea. That North Sea income then gets pushed into the English Channel. Go back from the Gulf. We have Chesapeake Bay. We'll put a merchant there. And then back from the Chesapeake Bay, we can go to the Caribbean, et cetera, et cetera. I think you guys get the idea. So the advantage of this is each merchant, I think it's for the first 5, in a chain gives a compounding bonus to the trade value that you're moving. So in this particular chain, and we would probably even put our next merchant in Panama, although we don't have a great amount of control over Panama right now. We really need to conquer French Columbia and some stuff from Portugal, particularly because right now it looks like we control, unless this is a center of trade. Okay, we have one center of trade that's kind of hidden behind this guy right here. But Portugal and France control the other centers of trade. So that's why we have such a low control of this. You know, this province is worth 11, 18, and 13 of the total trade power in this node, which isn't that high if you add these numbers up, right? It's not like there's 1,000 trade power sitting in this node. So those are very large chunks of this node. But so let's say we had a merchant here. We conquered some of this stuff. We'd have one merchant in our chain, 2 merchants, 3 merchants, 4 merchants, 5 merchants, and then bam, English Channel. Perfect chain. Nice domino effect where it's just going from node A to B to C to D to your home. I think there's supposed to be an E in there because A, B, C, D, E, yeah. So we have that nice chain established. Now let's look at another direction. We have Lubeck, which is a particularly valuable node. You can see we have like 53-ish, 54 maybe, total trade value in this node. So let's push out of there. What is upstream from Lubeck? We have the Baltic, so number 2. What's upstream from that? Novgorod, number 3. Eventually, if we had enough merchants, we might even want to push out of Kazan, although there's not a ton of value in Kazan, and we would need to finish conquering Muscovy and some other stuff first. So that node's pretty good for now. I mean, we're moving pretty much everything out of Novgorod, almost everything out of the Baltic. What we really need to do is conquer these provinces from the Commonwealth, although the Commonwealth was our ally for most of the game. But then they backstabbed us, so we were going to backstab them back, you know, repay the favor. So we would really want to conquer that. That would let us move a lot more value out of the Baltic, but we are getting the vast majority of it. So what's our other chain? Well, we have to come all the way down to Africa for that. Unfortunately, since we were focused so much on the New World and some stuff like here fighting Russia and conquering Great Britain, Castile and Portugal really beat us to Africa. It makes sense. They have a big advantage getting to Africa, starting with their islands and whatnot. So we definitely want to push out of the Ivory Coast. Ton of trade value in here. That's like 41 ducats or so. And we can push that straight into the English Channel. Alternatively, you know, depending on what other... If we had a lot of control over the Caribbean, you know, like 75+% control over the Caribbean, we could actually push this into the Caribbean to add it to the chain that goes up the New World. So that could be an option if we had much more control over the Caribbean. But we have a merchant pushing from here, transferring our trade power. We have a ton of light ships giving us a reasonable amount of control over the Ivory Coast, given that we only have this little... Actually, that province isn't even completed yet. I think this this is the province that we have. Nice, St. Helena. That's in the Ivory Coast, giving us that little bit of provincial trade power. So then, well, what's downstream from, or upstream, I should say, from the Ivory Coast? We have the Cape. Now, everything is already being moved out of the Cape into the Ivory Coast. So the only reason we would want to put a merchant there right now is for that domino effect type boost. could be a good choice for a merchant in the future. Upstream from that, we have Zanzibar, and for a long time, that's really where our domino effect's going to end. Definitely want to get more control over Zanzibar. There's still 10 ducats just sitting here that we could move. So that would be 1, 2, 3 merchants straight into the English Channel. Not as efficient as 5, but still pretty good. Eventually, we would really want to start conquering like Gujarat, the Spice Islands. We can actually steer the Spice Islands down to the Cape, and that could be a good option. There's tons of value just sitting here. Plus, it would give us another trade company once we start getting some of this stuff. So in a playthrough like this, it's highly likely that you would want to try and buy a province from Malacca if you have that DLC. Charter a company from them. So how much would they want? They would want way too much money. They would want 13,000 ducats for that province. You might be able to find a province that they would give you for less, because you certainly don't want to pay that much for a province. The other option would be, you know, just colonize it. We have the colonial range since we're over here now. Drop a colony if you can't buy a cheap trade company or can't charter a cheap trade company over there. Drop a colony if there's an open spot, and then just conquer them. You know, just do the European thing and conquer them, make a trade company there, and start pushing that to the Cape. That way you would have 1, let's say you put a merchant in the Cape, that's 2, 3, boom, into the English Channel. So hopefully that covers what you want to do with your merchants. You just want to look at what nodes have a lot of value, and I want to transfer out of those nodes into my home node. Keep in mind they need to be upstream, and by upstream I mean they need to flow into your home node. So, you know, transferring from Sevilla to Genoa, well, that's not going to get you any money because, yeah, you're not collecting in either of those places, right? Potentially it could be a way of denying Castile money if you really had an extra merchant sitting around, but probably more efficient just to pirate Sevilla and just take the money with that. But yeah, merchants, line them up in chains, domino effect, make sure that they flow into your home node, because if we click on the English Channel, you know, let's just take a look at these numbers real quick. The English Channel has, let's just say 20 ducats of local value. And then it gets 109 ducats, 108.5 ducats from what's flowing into it. So I think it's pretty easy to show that the vast majority in almost every case of the value of a trade node comes from steering into that node, using your trade power abroad to funnel it all into your home node and make a huge pizza here. And as you can see in this game, I think the second biggest node is Constantinople, has 50 ducats. We have 128 ducats of value in the English Channel. So the second way of increasing value that's a sort of double dip effect is, and it's still very important to making money in my opinion, is building manufactories and workshops, because manufactories increase goods produced and workshops increase production efficiency, which goes into the calculation of goods produced. So if we take a look back at what the local trade power is, we can see Breda, Utrecht, Zeeland are adding almost, well, a ducat apiece, so we'll just round Zeeland up a bit. So is Breda ours? I actually don't know if we conquered that. We did not. So Breda is a very valuable node in this province in terms of production income, because it has cloth, which is currently very valuable, 4.05 ducats per, and they are producing 3 goods. So they have 2.8 base, they have a textile manufacturer that adds 1, and then their production efficiency, well, they have goods produced efficiency because they've embraced manufactories. and they have this workshop here. So all of this whole goods produced thing goes into determining what is your production income in terms of your economy here. And wow, Dalasco again, or however you say that, it's adding a ton for us, 4.71 ducats of production. But the nice thing about production, the point I'm kind of veering off of here, is when you're building these manufactories and workshops, you are getting raw production income from building it. So if we built one in Can here, we'd gain 0.47 ducats in production income. So that's nice, you know, some more production income. But, and probably more importantly, it's adding to the local value of this trade node, which is going to increase how much money that you're getting here. So really what you want to do is you want to build manufactories in your provinces with valuable trade goods. That way, you know, preferably the ones first in your home trade node, especially once you have a large chunk of this pizza here. We have 79% of the pizza right now. That way it increases the value here. And then also in valuable trade good provinces that are upstream from it. So I think furs right now are particularly valuable. We had that cold period event going on. So furs, everybody wants furs right now to stay warm. So furs are normally worth 2. Right now, because of events, they're worth 4 ducats a piece. So furs have become quite valuable in this game. Iron also very valuable, 4.5 ducats per. So you want to make sure that you're building your manufactories and your workshops and counting houses in provinces that have valuable trade goods, because you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck when you're building it in an iron province that's worth 4.5 versus, let's say, a livestock province that's only worth 2 ducats a piece. And cows are getting extra screwed because of the ice age. I guess they're all dying or something, right? So pick your home trade node, conquer the valuable provinces, and get the largest piece of that pizza. Pump it up with your merchants by having your trade flow into it. So you want to use your light ships. You want to conquer valuable provinces in those other trade nodes. You know, we could even get more control over the Irish Sea. There's still a natural harbor here that we don't control. We do control, I think, yeah, 73% without even having light ships here. Excuse me. Burp there for a second. So yeah, just make sure that you're conquering those good provinces. The other thing you want to do too early on is you want to conquer the provinces that have valuable trade goods. In this case, it's likely that I should have taken Chester because it has salt instead of Carmarthen and Wayanid or Gwayanid, however you say that. Just because this one province has a much more valuable trade good than these two. And when we look at it even deeper, we're getting, or England rather, is getting 2,600 manpower from here. They have, you know, this province alone has more trade power than both of these combined. But I feel like I'm getting off on a tangent now. So yeah, where were we? Pick your home trade node, conquer valuable provinces, pump it up with your merchants, use your light ships to protect contested provinces, like in the Ivory Coast, where we can end up. Before we sent this huge fleet of light ships here, there was barely anything going over to the English Channel. Most of it was going to Sevilla, which we don't want Spain to be making money. We want to be making money. So I sent a bunch of light ships down here. We put our merchant there, et cetera, et cetera. The other important thing is you need a bunch of merchants. You can get 3 from trade ideas, but you really want to get merchants from colonial nations. They need to have 10 provinces in order to get a merchant off of them. So it's important that, you know, let's say, well, Mexico's huge just because there's so many natives here that you can conquer. But now that Louisiana has a merchant, we really want to start focusing on, and that's what we did, colonial California. That way, once this reaches 10 provinces, we'll get another merchant from them. And We want to get a merchant over here from our trade company in Zanzibar. And currently we have, apparently we control minus 0.1%. I feel like that's bugged right now. I think it was at like 22% or something when we were unpaused. So we want to get at least 51% of the trade in this node. That way our trade company gives us a merchant. Then we would probably move over to here, get 51% control of this node so that we get a merchant from there. Because the more merchants you have, the more trade you can steer. So the final note that I want to go over in this video, since I think it's long enough so far, is trade efficiency is very important for making money, because it's a direct boost to how much money we collect from trade. So you can see here right now we have 60%, 10% from tech, 20% from the burgers being loyal, 10% from just having trade ideas, and 20% from our cloth edict, our policy over here. We could even boost it up, like I said earlier, to 70%. So nations that have natural trade efficiency, I believe that the Netherlands does. Probably going to be, yeah, Netherlands has 15%. I was like, man, I hope I'm not wrong in remembering that. So countries like the Netherlands that get natural trade efficiency as part of their national ideas are very good at making money. Like if we were the Netherlands right now, I don't think that Denmark gets any trade efficiency. We sure don't. So if we were the Netherlands right now, we would actually be sitting at 75% efficiency, potentially 85% if we took that other policy. So, I mean, once you're at 100% trade efficiency, that's doubling the amount of money that you're going to be making, right? So if you look here, we're earning 162 ducats per month in this node, and a big chunk of that is because of our trade efficiency, right? So we're collecting a base of 101.26 ducats, and then because of our trade efficiency, we're boosting that all the way up to 162 ducats. So you can see if we were able to reach, say, 200% trade efficiency, or sorry, 100% trade efficiency, we'd be boosting up to 202, almost 203 ducats per month in trade income from this node alone. Which, I mean, that's pretty good, especially considering how much more value. There's still value sitting here. There's still value sitting here. There's a ton of value between how much is going other places. On the Ivory Coast, that's 13 more ducats we could push in. Then let's just say you have 100% trade efficiency. 13 ducats becomes 26 once you factor in trade efficiency. 10 more here, 5 more there, like 36 more here. I mean, that's going to be 72 once we have 100% trade efficiency, 72 more ducats a month. And that's before we even include the domino effect bonus of pushing it into the English Channel. So trade efficiency, very, very important as well. Finally, I almost forgot to mention it. Other good ways is boosting production efficiency. So let's just say we already have trade. Let's say we wanted to take quantity next, which we probably don't really need it in this playthrough because we already have way more force limit than we need, unless maybe we're going for world conquest or something. We could take quantity, and one of the finishers, or one of the policies I should say, from having trade and quantity is a 20% goods produced, I believe, somewhere in here. Yeah, first one. Quantity plus trade, 20% goods produced modifier. Again, that's going to be boosting the value of all of our trade nodes everywhere, which then our trade efficiency is going to stack on top of. So those are, you can get a lot of money out of your idea set as well in terms of trade efficiency, goods produced, etc., etc. So hopefully all of those tips will help you guys make tons of money. I felt pretty good about this playthrough. There's still way more money we can make. We're kind of swimming in money. We have all of our forts up just because we have tons of merc infantry so that we're conserving manpower. So when we go into a fight with this army, our cannons are just sitting in the back doing their thing, and our infantry, this army's not really properly optimized, but our infantry, our merc infantry is taking all of the casualties, our cannons are doing all of the killing. That way we're not losing manpower in fights. Really this should be like 16-16, I think, based on our combat width, something like that. But that's probably a video for another time. Combat width is actually 34, so we'd probably want to make 17-17 armies and then combine them when going into a fight, so we have 34 infantry and 34 artillery. I just don't like marching around with 34k stacks because you'll suffer random attrition. So what I kind of like to do, this is very off topic for this video, I like to have my combat width, so well really we'd be running around with a 68 stack, because you'd want 34 infantry and 34 artillery per stack. Now if you split that into 17 infantry, 17 artillery in one, and then 17 in one, 17, you know, when you combine them it becomes your 68. Anyway, that's besides the point. The point being that our overall army, we do need some more artillery. We have primarily merc infantry, primarily artillery. We have some cav just left over from stuff. And so we have a nice army. We're still making a ton of money, even though we have 124 ducats a month in army maintenance. And we're also paying for some pretty nice advisors. If I could, I would probably promote this guy, although actually I wouldn't because he's super old. But I picked him because plus 5% discipline is great, and our other options at the time were not. But if I was able to promote him, I could probably easily promote him to +3. We could even potentially, you know, this guy, we have a huge coalition against us. We could probably promote him to +4 and still be making money. So even though we have a really awful leader, we still have some good advisors to help out. And we're still raking in cash. So just remember, if you've watched this point and gone through my random ramblings, pick a good home trade node. Make sure that you get the largest slice of that pie. Then make that pizza, make that pie huge. You don't want to make the pie huge before you have a large slice of it, because that means some other country is going to be they're going to reap the rewards of your hard work. And to do that, push your trade around, use light ships to protect contested nodes, build manufactories and workshops in your valuable provinces, because those double dip. They give you extra trade income and they give you extra production income. So in the right provinces, they are extremely efficient to build. If you have any questions, please do leave a comment. If you want to watch how this playthrough started, how we got to this point, it is the Iron Price Achievement playlist, and the last little videos are going to be coming up. You can see some of my logic of why I conquered various provinces when I did, in terms of trying to maximize our provincial trade power in these nodes so that we can send our light ships elsewhere in the world to protect trade. Yeah, I think that's about it, guys. Hopefully this really helps you out. Let me know what you think in the comments. I do stream all my gameplay live. I'll probably put my Twitch channel link in the description of the video. That way, if you have any questions that you just want to ask me straight up, feel free to drop by and ask. Always happy to answer questions. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day and take care.